You are watching and listening to Stuck in the Middle podcast. This is a platform for entrepreneurs, innovators, movement makers, and creators of African descent. We hear stories, ideas, and experiences on how we can break the mold, how we can break barriers. This episode is brought to you by our online store. So if you go, I know it's hard times right now. People not trying to spend money, but go to our online store, sitmpodcast.com/store. You can shop Stuck in the Middle podcast merch. That is how we are able to drive this machine forward. Appreciate everybody who's been rocking with us through these sticky times. Want to thank returning listeners and watchers on YouTube right now. If you are new to the platform, hit subscribe and the ring a button so you get updates every time we drop something new. We definitely have a blog section on the website, so hit that up and read some stuff while you quarantine in. We have a special. We have a special guest in the building today. Not in the building, but in her house.
I wish I could be there.
It's been a minute, by the way, since we did an intro like this. But we have Stephanie Akoumany. She is the founder and CEO of Bloom, a leadership, wellness, and community building company, and the host of Blooming is a Habit podcast. Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie Akoumany, welcome to Stuck in the Middle podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Reflex. Thanks, Uncle AK. I appreciate it.
How are you
feeling? How you feeling?
Great. It's nice to be here. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man. Let's get right into it. Who is Dr. Stephanie?
Yes. Oh, that's the first question I ask people on my podcast. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate that because I'm usually asking the question instead of answering it. So this would be a good test for me. But I am Dr. Stephanie Akoumany, and I'm a person who loves life. I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for just being able to work with so many youth, so many parents, educators, business owners, and I help people to really find out what their passion is. What are they here for? And by doing that, I'm able to help them tap into the person that they are and who they want to be. And I'm also from Baltimore, but I went to the University of Maryland, College Park for my undergrad and for my PhD. And so PG County has become, NDC has become my second/third home. And it's been an amazing journey being in PG County since 2006. And yeah,
What brought you to PG County?
Oh, going to University of Maryland.
Okay.
Yeah. And I haven't left since.
You didn't go back.
I haven't gone back. Well, I was lucky enough to meet my husband, so I had no reason to go back. So that was a great reason to stay in the county.
You have a PhD, which is like the pinnacle of education. Tell us about your background, so for people who don't know you, like as far as education-wise, and you mentioned a little bit about your podcast, like in a broad brushstroke. What is your background?
Yes, definitely. So I got my PhD in American Studies. And what that means is I studied American culture, policy, and American life. And so I studied this from literally slavery, like colonization, until the present day. And I taught courses at University of Maryland on American politics, especially related to African Americans and people in the African diaspora, to see what have been their experiences from slavery till now, and how can we make change in our policies so that we actually get to understand who people are, and then not just one thing. That culture, Black culture, is very diverse, and to really understand that it's like this big, beautiful melting pot, and we've had all these challenges. Yet, what can we do to go forth? So I studied African American girls, and I wanted to see what were Black girls in Baltimore City, in a very low-income neighborhood that I actually grew up in. And I wanted to see what their experiences were in school, but also at home and on social media, because I did this study in 2010, and it was a longitudinal study. So I did it for 3 years, and I worked with 55 girls, and every other week I would come in and interview them and just do activities with them to get them to explain what is life like for a 12 to 14-year-old. And man, the thing I learned was that these girls are extremely strong. They're often more wise than most adults. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean that they've experienced some very the girls that I work with experienced some very challenging times, yet they were super resilient. And so at the heart of it, I study like what it means to be resilient, what it means to overcome any challenge that comes your way. And that's kind of perfect, unfortunately, that we have a quarantine, but I think resilience is something that every human has. But what these girls taught me is that so often we overlook what children and youth and young adults experience, and we don't look at their strength and their ability to create their own strategies to overcome those challenges. So now I applied that to business owners and to business professionals, parents, teachers, just any person, no matter what their age. So like people can get more tough. Like we need to get strong, and not just because of the quarantine, you know, like in general, because life, you know, it throws challenges at you. That's the one thing you can always know. You'll get a challenge, but how are you going to overcome it? And I want to help people use creativity to overcome their challenges.
Yeah. Does the media do a good service to the public when it comes to wellness?
Good question. Well, I see a shift. I That's hard. I think if you look at mainstream media, I think the problem is we have an like a demographic issue here, right? If you look at like our parents, they're the ones who are like watching CBS News, NBC, like turning on the news, right? I think,
Right.
and then maybe CNN and NBC. I'll leave Fox over to the side. Hopefully people are using it to critique and see the craziness and then turn the channel if they're even looking. And then I think, you know, you have our cable news stations. But I think that for our generation, I see a shift. I see people using social media as their media. And then maybe they'll watch Real Housewives of Potomac once in a while. But I think that
Mix it up with
there's
something.
more, yeah, I think there's more social media that allows people that are from like 20 to maybe 45, who are probably the people who watch your show, I mean, that listen to this podcast as well. I think there's more opportunities to learn about wellness, about mental health, physical health, realizing that your friends really influence, like your circle influences you. I think the people that I look to, like Jada Pinkett's Red Table Talk. Red Table Talk is a great way to enter the conversation of wellness, because I feel like they really don't hold back. Like, everything's on the table, and they're having real conversations that people have in their own homes. And I think that's a really positive thing when most people know like Jada and know her mission. Whereas like the Real Housewives of Atlanta, Potomac, I like, no shade to those shows, but I think if that type of media, it's not really getting us anywhere. I think it creates an unhealthy body image for Black women, but also for Black girls, in the way that like you have this expectation that you have to have like a $1 million home and have on the most like designer clothes. Like you have to have your weave perfect all the time. You can only have a weave, and you have to have your makeup done. And I think on the way for women, that is not the most healthy stereotype. I think we should all try to be as wealthy as we want to be. Wealth is great. Like wealth is positive. You can help your family, help yourself. But like, I think we should redefine what wealthy means. For me, health is wealth. And if I have my mind right, if I'm taking care of my body and my mind, I'm going to be able to focus and like create the most amazing business I can.
Why only focus on women?
I was about to talk about men actually, so I'm glad you said that. That's why I said for women, and I was about to say for men. I think for men is unhealthy too, because if you're trying to like enter a relationship, like the show is highly about relationships.
I'm talking about like your platforms or like the podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll say that, but I'm gonna finish though, because I think shows like that are actually very unhealthy for men, because it leads women to have very unhealthy stereotypes about what their man should and shouldn't do, and how they should be, how they like what they should be able to provide for them, without realizing like both people need to come to a relationship providing for each other. But for my platform for men, I actually have a few clients who are male business owners and business professionals. And I just like the major question that I'm trying to answer is, what does it mean to be human? What can it mean? So like, who are you? Like as a man, like what challenges do you feel like you face every day, whether from your family, whether from society, your job? It helps men to really dig deep and not worry about stereotypes about, not needing to feel. I help men like deal with like creating a schedule that accommodates like their fitness goals. I've trained people before, like tons of men want to talk too, like they just want to be themselves. And I think that everyone needs the opportunity to share what they're going through and what their goals are. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. I think my podcast and my blog, justbloom.io, I think we really talk about like, what are we going through as men and women in today's world, and how can we find creative solutions to get to the next level?
Speaking of Bloom, that's your baby. You're
It
the
is
founder of
a
Bloom.
baby.
Yeah, let's for those who don't know what Bloom is, what is Bloom?
Totally, thank you. So Bloom is a leadership, wellness, and community building company. And what I mean by that is, I think so often we grow up in school and we're like, our teachers are like, let's be a leader. And we're like, okay, I found that students either feel like they're a leader or they don't. Right? In school, you might take a class and you'll be put in the AP classes, or you'll be put in like a regular class. And I want people to realize, like, no matter what your background, you can be, and you are a leader. Meaning that, like, if you have, say you have nephews, you don't have kids, they're watching you, right? Like they're watching you every step, everything you say, the person that you want to be, your coworkers, your best friends that are your age, they're watching you. Your employees, if you have a business, they're watching you. So how are you like living for yourself, but also for others? And also like around diversity, equity, inclusion. So Bloom, I do a lot of trainings. I do these leadership trainings, personal development trainings, professional development, and workplace wellness trainings. So there was a school that I went to recently, and they were dealing with a lot of, I'll just be honest, it was a lot of racism going on in their school. It was a predominantly white school, and luckily the assistant principal reached out to me, was like, look, we realize this is an issue and we need to handle it. We need your help. And I was proud of that person because that's not easy to deal with. So I came in and literally did a professional development training with these teachers on how to be less biased, how to be watching out for how you treat students differently depending on where you are. Now, translate that to a workplace or, any company. How are we interacting with our employees? Are we providing, like, I train bosses to realize, like, are you helping your employees manage their time in the way that their self-care can be an equal part of their life equation, finding some work-life balance. Because like if you're doing work, even now when we're quarantined, people are always saying like they're on Zoom meetings all day long. Like, is that the most productive thing for your employees to be able to do? Like helping them to find time for meditation, yoga, eating clean, like knowing how to cook a meal, which we all got to do now for the most part. Yeah, right. It's different. Life is different, and I've been trying to prepare people for quarantine life before the quarantine, I must say, because like meditation is a big part of what I do. And I help people to like think about, what do you have positive self-talk when you sitting still for 15 minutes, or are all the thoughts going back to negativity? Like, are you critiquing yourself? Are you critiquing your performance? And it's just, I find a lot of people don't realize they have a lot of negative self-talk and a lot of self-doubt. And I help them to like really analyze how they're thinking and to be like, no, is that really true? Aren't you as excellent as you tell your best friend they are? I help people to be their own best friend, basically. And I help employers and principals and parents to realize how they can treat the people that are in their community or their family with love and respect so that they can all thrive.
That's That's interesting because first of all, I want you to tell people who don't know who Olivia Pope is. Who Olivia Pope is.
I can tell you read the website.
You stated in that blog, why is your life akin to hers, or
Yes. Well,
why?
only in the good ways. So I wrote that on purpose, and that's funny you saw that. So thanks, because I joke about it. Well, the first thing I'll say before I answer who Olivia Pope is, I found that the key to success is important to be able to laugh at yourself and to like put yourself. Like I also say that I'm the Beyonce of diversity, equity, inclusion, or workplace wellness work. And the reason I say that is because I have a high level of respect for Beyonce's grind, right? Like beyond the glitz and the glam, the woman works hard and she has a goal and a vision. And for Olivia Pope, I saw her, for those who don't know who Olivia Pope is, I don't know the years that show ran, maybe 2013 to 2017, maybe, I don't know. But Scandal, it was the show Scandal made by Shonda Rhimes, and it aired on ABC. And Olivia Pope, she stood out to me because she was the first person in the media who was like a Black woman that was really focused on like fixing things. She was called the Fixer, and she would have these politicians come in or business owners come in. They'd have some scandal, like something that went wrong in their their workplace and in their family, and they didn't want it to be public, and they needed to fix it so that they could make their community or workplace better, but also so they could protect themselves and their public image. But the reason I align myself with that mentality, minus the like need for wine all the time every night to go to sleep, like Olivia, I find that students, parents, schools, businesses, every business deal I've done, the person has found me. And I appreciate that because it's like, for the work that I put out on social media, whether it's Facebook, mainly Instagram, and my website, people realize that like, look, I got some racist people at my job. Or my boss is creating a toxic workplace. Or it's the boss and they're like, I want to create a workplace where my employees are able to like become their best selves, be like super productive, where they're able to cut the drama out, or schools where they realize kids are like, it's too much drama. And they have a big reputation. Like most of my clients, they have some type of public persona that if what got out into the public, they wouldn't get more students, or they'd have less students that actually stay, or they might not have too much drama, but they just want to make their workplace better. And I found that my superpower is I help people to get rid of the drama, help them to realize that we don't need to like, I think some people, we've been trained in this like a reality TV world growing up where we feed off of drama. But what I help people to do is to look within and see like, who is that amazing person or that amazing school that's already there? What are your mission? What is your value? What are your goals? And like, how can you actually put this to practice, right? Instead of relying on drama, because it's actually siphoning your energy. It's killing your energy.
I'm curious as to what a world where good social equity practice look like to you.
Totally. Well, I think equity is important because so often, in the past, you look at the 1960s and forward, the talk was so much about equality. And I think what people are realizing in the last 20, 30 years is that equity is a little more important because, like, you and me, we could say like, oh, we need to get equal pay. And, maybe we have the same job and say we're like both, I don't know, say we're both computer programmers and we're doing the same thing. But for my deal, for my job, like for my package, right? Before I sign the paper, I might have a child, which I do, right? And maybe, well, this is tricky because given like such specific examples, it's tricky, but say that because every situation is different, which is why I'm pausing. But what I'm trying to say is, say that a woman has a child or a man has a child, and we can say it like, let's keep going. Say you have a child, I have a child. We both should get paternity leave, right? But maybe when we get to work, maybe I need a room and other women need a room where they can like breastfeed their kids, right? Or pump milk. Whereas you don't really need that type of room, but maybe you need a meditation room, right? Equity is recognizing that like everybody doesn't need a room to breastfeed because they don't have breasts to like pump milk for, right? But equity means that like based on your needs, what can the company do, what can the school do to meet those needs and to meet the needs of others as best as possible. So I think that this is important, especially even looking at the quarantine, looking at education. Not everybody has an internet connection. Like you look at down kids in like Southeast DC, all of them don't have an internet connection, right? So how are they doing their schoolwork right now? We can say like, let's do all classes on Zoom, which is awesome, but an equitable, like socially equitable situation, which like, DC public schools could do, which I've seen, I forgot the city, but what they did was they got a school bus and got all these modems and they put them on the school bus, right? And they put these school buses with internet connection strategically in neighborhoods where they knew their students didn't have internet connection, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have the data out there. So that's equitable. Now, I'm not going to go take that modem to a neighborhood that has, like, they have internet connection. Now, we could say equality would be that I take buses with modems to every neighborhood for my whole school district. But if I know that school, like certain neighborhoods don't need it, I'm not going to waste money and resources to give it. It's not about fairness. It's not about equality. It's about fairness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say my job, like I was trying to schedule a meeting, and this is before the whole lockdown thing. I was trying to schedule a meeting at my job, and I realized they had about 4 different rooms where women could go sit and breastfeed their kids and all, and I thought that was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but let's go back to what Bloom to Bloom. I was curious as to when you started Bloom and what problem at that particular time did you see in the world that you were trying to solve?
Thanks for that question. Yeah, I did see a problem in the world. You hit it right on. So I started Bloom in 2017, and I did it because I had been teaching at University of Maryland undergraduate courses on American Studies from 2010 until that point. And teaching at the college level, it was amazing because I went to University of Maryland, and then to teach there was like, wow, like this is so like the nerd in me, just like I love like being able to do this. And, I was like 20, this is from me being like 22 years old to, I don't even know, like 27 or something. And I look just like the students in my class, right? I look just as young, and they're like, are you the professor or the student? And so I realized very quickly during my research study and at University of Maryland that I had a gift that I humbly and confidently owned of speaking to people and getting them to understand very complex topics in a way that related to their life. And I found that to be beautiful because I think that so often people get turned off by like theories and academic work because it seems so unrelated to what they're doing. But when I got to help like my students, no matter what their background, my white students, Latino students, Black students from every economic status, realize why the Black Lives Matter movement mattered to them, and that it's not just something that like Black people were complaining about or people the African diaspora complaining about. That like let me know, like, look, this is like something I can do. I can translate social justice issues to people. So the thing that really got me started was my work working with those Black girls in Baltimore City. It made me realize like there are a lot of people struggling out here and their voices aren't being heard. And so I also realized that doing the work in private schools that I was doing, that there are a lot of students of color who were in these predominantly white institutions or colleges, and their voices like aren't being heard. Like we've broken the color line of like breaking segregation legally, but the kids' experiences were like crappy. Like they're still feeling the brunt of racism. And as a person who attended Head Start, which is a program for economically disadvantaged people when you're like a baby, like a toddler. So I went to Head Start, and I also went to public school from kindergarten to, pre-K to 5th grade. And then I was lucky to get a scholarship to go to private school. So I got to see like all of these different economically and racially segregated parts of our society. And then you get to grad school, and then I worked at the House of Sweden. And I just kept seeing like all these poor people and all these rich people. When I say poor, I mean economically, to be clear. And I just kept saying like, all right, the poorest people and the richest people, all they want to do is be seen and heard. All they want to do is be understood and make a real human connection. But they don't know how when they meet because they feel so different. And I knew that I got a chance to like be around, I got to be like the one Black person in the whole company before. Like most people would be like, what do I do? And I was like, look, I know how to do this. And I realized I needed to teach more white people how to be more culturally aware. And I needed to teach more Black people and Latino people and Asian people how to like not give a, I'm sorry, I won't use that word, not to care about how other people view them, but to be their best selves at all times so that we can all just be real. And I tell you, it's like it's no more fulfilling thing than to help people see each other. And I think that the reason I say a wellness company is because when people don't feel included in their job or their workplace or their family, they don't feel well. That's where, other than like, I think that if you look at nature versus nurture, is a lot of nurturing not going on. And a lot of mental health problems stem from that because people are put down so often and not always overtly. And I wanted to really change that to make people realize like, this isn't a question. Like when you discriminate against someone or you're being biased towards somebody, or you as a teacher watch another student be biased towards another, this becomes a public health issue, just as bad as this virus. Because there's tons of kids right now that go home and the bullying doesn't stop. It's on social media. There's a lot of college students where this doesn't stop. Or you're at a party. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, finish.
Oh, like you're at a party and like, it could be something like really subtle. Like you're at a party at college and you feel like you need to fit into a certain group. It could be all Black people or all people from the African diaspora. And you feel like you need to do something that compromises who you really think you are. Like I've seen like my old peers like drink until they fall out on, the curb. And then somebody is responsible for dragging them home. Like it's not always racism. It's just like, how are we treating each other? There's a lot of people going around with depression and anxiety and they're too scared to say anything. And I think that a lot of that can be fixed.
Thanks.
I want to get to know Dr. Stephanie Akoumany a little bit more. For those who are watching, listening, we're talking to Dr. Stephanie Akoumany, founder of Bloom, and the host of the podcast. Host of Blooming is a Happy podcast. You're from Baltimore, like you said. Married. How many kids do you have?
Just, 2 if you can include the dog.
What is, real quick, where is your husband from?
He's from Togo.
That's where you got your last name, Akoumany, from?
Yeah, that's where you got me from, yeah. Which is why you probably thought I was from Togo. I've been officially adopted, though.
We welcome you. Have you been back?
No, but I was planning to this year, but this happened, so I can't. But when the pandemic is over, I definitely want to.
Why did you feel it was important to get a PhD? Real quick, like why did you feel it was important to keep going and to get a PhD in this specific field?
Totally. I love learning, and I thought it was important in this field because I realized that I love learning, but it's people out here suffering, and I knew that I was uniquely positioned like I said earlier, to see how rich people were living and how poor people were living and how white, Black, Asian, Chinese, like the whole gamut, how they were living. And I knew that I needed some big world, like macro policies. Like I was very interested in the news. I wanted to be a journalist at first, and now I guess I kind of am with the podcast, but I really wanted to understand what people went through and what strategies scientists, government workers, public health administrators, like what strategies they found could alleviate poverty, hunger, diseases. I knew that my brain was always putting the dots together. And I knew that me just becoming some policy worker at the, well, I would have taken the job with the Obama White House, so let me not front. But at like some congressman's office, which is what I interned on Capitol Hill in undergrad. And I was about to take that work, like let's become a staffer on the Hill. And I realized that's not what I wanted. I didn't want to write the policy. I wanted to inform it, but I needed to understand like design thinking, like how everything worked together. And so that's why I did it.
How has COVID-19 made it difficult for you to, you're very passionate and killing it at what you do.
Thank you.
But before COVID-19 and now, how has it made it difficult for you to execute your passions in your work, and what are you doing now to still get your message and execute your message and ideas out there?
Definitely, I appreciate that. Yeah, I did my last. Because I also am a keynote speaker, and I also do these trainings for diversity, equity, inclusion, conflict resolution, wellness. And so I did my last talk at a school in Philadelphia, literally the week before everything shut down. It was so bad that the Acela train, I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's like the really high speed train that goes from DC to New York. It was actually literally shut down the day before I had to leave. And so I had a choice, like, am I going to get on this train or what? Because the mark was still working, because I need to go to Philly and from DC. And I went, and it was amazing. I talked to 400 kids, talked to about 50 teachers, and it was awesome. But then I realized, like, this whole business model isn't going to work anymore, because I can't physically go to schools and or businesses. And
of course, by the way, you keynote speaker.
Yeah, man, that's what I do. That's half of what I do. I am definitely a motivational speaker, and you give me a crowd right now. My biggest crowd has been 475, but you give me 1 million, I'm ready. So if anybody out there has any opportunities, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. I am ready. Well, I was really grateful because, and I'll answer your other question, but in 2009, I spoke to President Obama. I did a press conference there at the White House and on Pell Grants, because I received scholarships. And I realized, I don't think anybody needs Barack Obama to be in the room to own their voice. But for me, that was my moment where I realized if I can speak with cameras, hundreds of cameras in the room, NBC, C-SPAN, all those stations, that I can do anything. And I just need to be confident about it. But that's another thing I do, help people to find their voice. But to go back to your question, I think that it's from me and many of my friends who are speakers or they do trainings for businesses and schools. We have all been we were a little shook, but something that has been helpful is Zoom, which is what we're using right now, because we've been able to do trainings. Like I talked to a class at Towson University last week, an urban education class, and it was awesome. Like Zoom was great. We did what we're doing right now, and it allowed me to put the message out. So I think that Zoom has been a great way that I've been able to connect with schools that had me booked already. But other than that, I really right now, online courses. I'm actually in the process of creating an online course where it's really fun and interactive and feels like a game, so that people really take this personal development work seriously, because we're either going to suffer or we can feel like $1 million and a superhero. Because I tell people, if I died today, the main thing I would share with people is that meditation, yoga, eating some clean, healthy food without all the sugar, without all the salt, right? We all know all the, canola oil, like all those things changed my life. I feel like the true definition of superwoman. Now, what I mean by that is I can't go all day straight. Well, I can, but we all need time to rest. And I think that me getting myself centered and grounded, it helped me to really not get scared by COVID-19, because I'm human. I went through a moment of like, uh-oh, this whole business model was working really well for me, and now it's not. But I realized like this is where it's time to practice what I preach, and me knowing, like, checking in like with what my goals are, what my vision is for myself. I got to get creative. What a great time to test myself. Let's go.
Mm-hmm. You're a fellow podcaster as well, the host of the Blooming It's a Happy podcast.
Yes.
How is that going? How is that going in this times of quarantine?
That's one of the saving graces, because I literally just interviewed who I can say is now a friend, but also somebody I hired a while ago. She's a educator and a wellness director and a Zumba instructor. She lives in South Korea right now, and she moved there in October, and I was able to use Zoom and interview her for the podcast about how people have been dealing with the quarantine and with the virus, COVID-19 in South Korea, because they actually didn't have a forced shutdown. People kind of self-quarantined because they realized, like, this is serious. We need to not play around with it.
Yeah.
But I was able to interview her about, what does self-care look like? Like, what does it mean to give yourself permission to do what the heck you want, right? Like, I think a lot of people are looking to our peers. We on Instagram all day, we on TikTok all day, and we just can't like look within and say like, yeah, what I want matters. And we holding ourselves back, and we're getting in our way. And I use the podcast as a way to show what other people have personally and professionally gone through and what their journeys have been, and how, like, the Blooming Is a Habit podcast is a case of when following your dream goes right. Because when you don't, it's like self-sabotage. It's like killing yourself inside. I think there's this quote that like, the wealthiest place is the graveyard, because it's where like all these amazing dreams went to go and die. And I was like, wow, like that's so true. And I think that this moment, leaving all quarantine, is messed up, and I'm very sad for the people who are being affected by this directly, like people who have passed away, people whose family are sick, people who might be sick and don't know they're sick right now. It is unimaginable. But for those of us, I don't have I'll be honest, like I don't have all those answers for those people. But to use whatever method you use, whether that's praying, whether that's getting grounded, just being grateful. Gratitude is always a great method for me, because in our worst moments, there's always one little thing to be grateful for. And even if death is the moment, maybe the life I had or what my family will do. But to go back, the podcast has been great because it's been a tool that I've been able to use to help people really see, like, people of color especially, that they can do anything they put their minds to. Like, it's not going to not be hard. It's going to be challenging, but there's so many tools out there that you can use to really like map out what your dream is and to make a roadmap to actually get it done step by step by step. I always say, like, small steps have a big impact. Like, I come from nothing. Like, my parents didn't have any money. And I was very lucky from scholarships and mentors and just good people who care to show me, like, you can do it. And my podcast is all about, you can do it, man. Like, you can do it. And it's the response I've gotten, I'm really grateful for, because like I have a pretty solid audience now, and then new people come in all the time. I was looking at the stats for the podcast, and it was showing me like now like South Korea is on the map of people listening, like Costa Rica, Sweden, Ireland. I'm like, whoa, like that's cool. Other than the US, of course. Hopefully we'll get some of the Caribbean and Africa up on there soon, but you know how that is. But you know, I think this a help. It's a help. And I just think that we all have dreams, but we often tell ourselves, no, not me, I can't do that. Like that's not only Kobe can do, or you know, Elon Musk can do. But I'm like, no, like you're the same. Let's figure out how to make that happen. And my online course, which is coming up soon, will help people to do that.
What's your favorite quote?
Yeah.
Okay. Ooh. Okay, I got it. Les Brown. He says, "It's not what I'm paraphrasing, but it's basically it's not what happens to you, it's how creative you are to like find a solution." I'm paraphrasing, but that's the gist of it, because life is gonna come.
Les Brown.
Yeah, Les Brown. Like if you YouTube him, man, you feeling down, YouTube Les Brown, or go to the Luminous and have a podcast. But and you'll feel better. But if you don't want that, go to Les Brown, because that dude, I mean, he just grew up in. He was declared like at that time they said they used the incorrect words. I'm never going to repeat it, but they basically said that he wasn't capable of learning, right? And he proved everybody wrong. He used people's ammunition as fire to be like, no, like you don't know who I am. I'm going to show you. And he's just a great motivational speaker for anybody, no matter where you are in life.
What podcast are you listening to right now? What book? What 2 books are you reading right now?
Totally. Well, for books, Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. And I would say that again, because I would suggest people read it. Everything is Figureoutable by Marie Forleo. And even if you don't read the book, go to that woman's YouTube page, because no matter who you are, her motto is that everybody has a gift in the world that they want to share, and they can do it. And she's the first person that taught me about like entrepreneurship and being a multi-passionate entrepreneur, because I had all these like things that I love to do, but I felt like, oh, I'm only supposed to do one. And I couldn't, like even in my PhD, I couldn't just talk about one thing. Like I ended up talking about mindfulness and meditation and how Black girls should use it to feel better. And they're like, I can't just, I don't like being somebody trying to put me in a corner, put me in a box. And I think our schools are, not all of our schools, I love schools, I work in schools, but I think so often our old models of work and school, they try to put us in these boxes. And I think this quarantine is trying to wake us up to show us like that should not be the model. We can't work like that. We need freedom. Like all of us, you took a nap today, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You took a nap? Yeah.
Definitely.
Everybody should be able to get a nap. What do they do in kindergarten? Get a nap. Because why? It's not childish. It lets us rejuvenate ourselves. Meditation, like I think we need to figure this stuff out. And the sad part is there's so many answers. There's so many people. I mean, Deepak Chopra, Tom Bilyeu. I'm not going to just name drop everybody. I can give you guys some links so that people can actually go look at it. But there are people that are out there finding wellness solutions, and even ones where you can't afford a therapist that you can do in your own home and with your own phone. And YouTube has been a really great resource. Another podcast that I've listened to is Impact Theory. They have a podcast and they also have a YouTube channel. And like you all, they're trying to inspire business owners and business professionals to just be like, you can be excellent. What's your dream? Let's figure this stuff out right now. Mm-hmm. The last one is School of Greatness. His name's Louis Howes, I think that's how you pronounce it, Howes. He was a football player that he works a lot to show like men, like you can express yourself. You can be like who you want to be and not worry about the world. So yeah, that's what I listen to a lot. And I hope to be like a voice for people, the African diaspora, to like hear personal development and wellness work. Because I think that there are a lot of women of color coming up making, like there's one like therapy for Black girls or Black women. I haven't listened to it yet, but I just found that I was like, that's awesome. So there are more Black women coming into the scene, but I just want to be one more voice where people feel like they can relate no matter who they are, but especially for people of color, where we're not always in the wellness industry, because it's a luxury. It's a luxury to be able to say, I'm going to go meditate right now. Oh, I think I'm going to buy that organic apple and, you know, that organic food, especially right now when people's jobs being cut. So I want to show people like, you don't need a lot of money. You just need your body and your mind in like 5 minutes. And if you spend that 5 minutes every day, you can change your life.
You got a lot. I don't know if AK had a question.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say for her to drop as we drop her social media handles and how people can get in touch with her, because Dr. Stephanie got a lot of knowledge, man. Y'all need to tap into that.
That's why you know it's just fun.
Yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, just let the people know how they can get in contact with you, social media, email.
Totally. It's look, I'm like, where's the little period? I'm gonna pull up Instagram right now. I should know this by heart. All right, got you. So it's Dr. Stephanie Akoumany on IG. And that's the main place that I would go. Like IG is where I put everything there, but the website is justbloom.io, and that's justbloom.io because I think about myself as a tech startup, which is why I said .io, because I want to use technology as a way to help people to really figure this whole personal development, diversity, equity, inclusion, and business workplace wellness thing out. Also, Dr. Steph Akoumany on Twitter, but I don't really use Twitter that much, to be honest. And go on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you use for your podcast streaming. For the Blooming is a Habit podcast. The Blooming is a Habit podcast. And you will not be disappointed. We have rocket scientists, professors, business owners. We even had teenagers. So if you have any teenagers or college students, I interview them all the time as well, because I want everybody's voice to be included and heard.
Yep, that's for sure. Appreciate it. This platform too, man, is for everybody as well. You know, everybody you listed, and you know, students and the youngins as well too. So come on, share their experiences, their advices on how to break the mold. You know, together we're gonna build a perfect world, the world we want to see together. Totally. Yeah, Flex, you got anything to add? Subtract.
Sure. This has been great, Doctor. Wish you the best on everything you got going, and appreciate you, taking this time out of your day to kick it with us.
Definitely. I thank you guys so much. This is really awesome, and I appreciate you guys bringing me on the podcast, but I really appreciate you guys having the podcast because it's so important for us to know that we can do anything. And the last thing I want to say, like, you guys, this is the time where we need to create our own reality. Write that stuff down, type it in your phone, but make it happen and get an accountability partner. And it's time to bloom.
Hey, Doctor, you read a lot. Go grab my book. It's called No Such Thing as Halfway. It's on pre-order right now on Amazon. I just had to throw that in there. Hey, okay, you know what I'm saying? Everybody, appreciate y'all checking this podcast out on a weekly basis. We have a lot of content out right now. A lot of couch talk, streaming right now on YouTube. So please go catch up. There's some great stuff about relationships with a diverse cast from Togo, from Rwanda, Uganda, all over the place. We even got some Miss what all up in there?
It was Miss Guinea.
Yeah, Miss Guinea all up in there. So hey, fans and listeners, go catch up on the stuff, and appreciate you for kicking it with us, Dr. AK. You good?
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm good. Definitely follow us on all social platforms at SITM Podcast. The website is sitmpodcast.com. We got our blog posts on there. Again, yeah, go pre-order Reflex's debut novel coming out May 5th. You could pre-order that right now. Pull up to him, if you want a signed copy. I probably didn't say that, but anyways, listen, man, go pre-order that book, man. I'm telling you, this is a very, very great story. Reflex, you did your thing writing that book. I give you that. Anyways, you know all the glories. I've given you already. This is Talking Real Podcast. Thank you, Dr. Stephanie. The
You're
Talking Real
welcome.
Podcast.
And we out.